the fact of the matter is that every work arrangement is different. I think that this bill kind of envisions a typical employer employment arrangement, that people work regular hours, they're in some sort of office environment, or they're in some sort of, work arrangement that is regular, can be, predictable, that sort of thing. And the fact of the matter is that it's not necessarily how the world is. There's a lot of different types of employment opportunities that exist in the world. And I know from my own personal circumstances that many times in the past, when I've been offered benefits by employers, I've told them I don't want the benefit. I'd rather have more pay. Give me the money. I will take that, and I will manage my own benefits the way that I choose. And, more and more, the state is coming along to suggest that, because they're always trying to help someone, we've got to come in and tell people how they're going to be helped, whether they want to be or not. And the fact of the matter is there's people out on the street that don't want these benefits. Or if they do want them, they want to be able to pick and choose how they purchase them in a private marketplace arrangement. They want to be able to negotiate these items with their employer versus other types of compensation. And we're just slowly but surely eroding any of that legitimate freedom between those parties to pursue their best solution, and for them to work together to find a solution that's outside this framework that we are constantly modifying and providing for them. Many of the same people that put these policies forward are also the same people that say that capitalism fails in some regards. And I always find that ironic, because effectively every one of these policies that is enacted is effectively undermining capitalism. Capitalism could be defined as nothing more than the free exchange of goods and services between voluntary participants. It's freedom, in other words. It's the fact that people can make business arrangements with one another and exchange goods and services because they want to. But the fact of the matter is that when the state is forever interfering with that ability to have that freedom to negotiate the terms of some sort of exchange of goods and services, you don't have freedom anymore, and you don't have capitalism anymore. So I just hope people will remember that before they start attacking capitalism. That's not what it is. Yeah, but capitalism only occurs with the sense of freedom and not government intervention. This is a big bill. There's a lot of underlying sections in here. This policy is worth a very, very lengthy negotiation, especially since it appears effectively twice on today's agenda, because there are two bills. The governor's bill, which I think is the last item, is almost an exact mirror of this one, except for maybe some of the terms. But we've heard testimony from business owners who said, this is pretty onerous in how you're suggesting we are supposed to play our part in this policy framework. And they mentioned, obviously, the cost of being able to provide these types of benefits and how fast these benefits accrue, the change in how available the benefits are. There used to be a waiting period. That waiting period is being eliminated in this policy. And that's just the surface level stuff that I think would deter folks from starting a business. You know how many people I talk to who have an interest in starting some type of small shop? I talked to a woman the other day who she wants to start a business selling weight loss products. And her issue was, she went just shopping for insurance and then calling the Secretary of State's office and figuring out what type of, business licensing she needs and things like that. And it's like on and on. And she just threw up her hands and said, forget it. This is ridiculous. It's overwhelming. People wonder why everything that we are purchasing comes from China. They wonder why that is. Well, this is why. Because in China, they don't put these types of restrictions on their people. Now, that doesn't mean that China is a better place. It just means that you're telling American, Connecticut business owners, manufacturers, providers of goods and services that they have to compete with a China that doesn't have any of the requirements we would have in America, let alone human rights abuses and public safety and the safety of their employees or any of that stuff. But on top of that, we're going to not only tell our American manufacturers and business people and providers that they have to follow along with this type of arbitrary benefits that are just thought up by a few people who happen to serve in government. That's not how our system is supposed to work. You know, I keep reminding everyone that we are representatives of our constituents. Our constituents should be allowed to make their own decisions. We work for them. We shouldn't be deciding everything for them. And this is another bill where we're deciding for the people on the street what the best arrangement for them is. If they come up with this arrangement on their own, that's fine. But there are plenty of people that would come up with a different arrangement that might be more beneficial to an employee or more beneficial to an employer, or just plain different. In the sense that, as I mentioned, for me, I'm the guy who would say, you know what, really don't give me those benefits. Just give me a little extra pay. That's something I would prefer. But as we create policy that removes choices, removes freedom, and that's what's happening here, make no mistake, it's an impediment on freedom, and not just the employer. Every one of these bills on this agenda is an impediment of freedom on the employee too, because it eliminates their ability to negotiate terms on their own that might be better. I noticed, by the way, that I think in this bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the state of Connecticut required to participate in this policy, Mr. Chairman?
Senator, give me 1 second. Let me try to find that answer for you. Thank you. Senator, I got you an answer. It's just private sector.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was the part of the bill that I was trying to find highlighted earlier. And isn't that convenient? You know, the state doesn't have to live by any of its own rules. And I'm not surprised by that. Anyway, at some point, if one of these bills or both of these bills gets melded into some final product and it makes it before the Senate, I can promise you that this will be a very lengthy conversation, because I think that if you're going to do a policy like this, you've got to provide opportunity for people, both employers and employees, to make their own choices on how far or how much they want to participate. And making a one-size-fits-all blanket policy that arbitrarily imposes this benefit structure on people is wrong. There are a lot of other issues with the bill. I think it's a disincentive to business overall. I think I made that pretty clear. But even some of the other things outside of just the policy on its face, but the requirement for employers to maintain data, and if they can't come up with their data that they're supposed to save for 3 years, it's assumed that they are in violation and so on. And now you've got the attorney general breathing down their neck, et cetera, just like a similar bill that we had today. This is just the kind of thing that is going to tell people not to do business in our state. And before I forget, I just want to address one other small section of this bill that came to my attention. That's on lines 210 through 214. And it reads, relating to the accrual and use of paid sick leave, the personal care attendant workforce council established under section blah, blah, blah shall be considered an employer of any personal care attendants as defined in section 17, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. This raised the hairs on the back of my neck when I read it, for the simple fact that, you know, I've been in this legislature long enough to remember before there was a personal care attendants workforce council, and before personal care attendants were made employees of the state of Connecticut for the singular and express purposes of putting them into a public sector employee union. Just for the benefit of the people in this room, I want to just talk about personal care attendants and how this system works currently and how it should work. And that is that, a long time ago, some very smart and very capable people, and including some people that I know personally and I'm very friendly with, came up with a very brilliant idea, which was to take people that are in nursing homes and give them an opportunity to stay home and age in place by creating something called the Medicare waiver program, which was effectively the ability to use money that would keep people in a nursing home so that they could use that money to hire people to take care of themselves. And effectively, that benefit was for that disabled person. And that disabled person would have the opportunity to expend those funds to hire employees, personal care attendants, to take care of them. But it was understood that the benefit was for that disabled person, and it was understood that the employee worked for that disabled person because they cared for them. As a matter of practice, the state government, of course, doesn't trust anyone with money, so they would send the money directly to the personal care attendant as opposed to the employer themselves to skip that step. Well, there was a movement about 10 years ago to use this quirk that says that these checks are coming from the state to these personal care attendants as an excuse to put them in an employee union and to extract dues for that purpose. The same thing happened to daycare providers at the same time. Daycare providers, obviously, individuals caring for children of other parents. And of course, the Care for Kids program in the state would cut the check directly to the daycare, even though it was for the parents of the children. And therefore, the state, again, put those folks in a union also because they receive checks from the state, even though they don't actually work for the state in any way, shape, or form, or are not connected in any way, shape, or form. And that's what's gone on in this state since, is that these personal care attendants have been in this union, even though they're completely disconnected. They are not connected by anything other than they all happen to receive checks from the state because they happen to be in the employ of disabled folks who actually receive benefits under the Medicaid waiver program. And what concerns me more than anything is that the people that I'm referring to are very, very concerned about their quality of care, as you can imagine. And they want to retain care and control over who they hire as personal care attendants to take care of them. And I am very concerned that this language in this bill, even though it's an unrelated topic, makes a policy change that endangers that relationship by suggesting that the Personal Care Attendant Workforce Council established under a certain statute shall be considered an employer of any personal care attendants. Well, they are not the employer. The employer is the person receiving the Medicaid waiver program benefit. And I'm hopeful that can be changed going forward. And me bringing this to the attention of the committee and the chairs is taken seriously, because I do think that it does jeopardize that relationship, and the potential is there for those folks in that program to suffer. And I would hate to see that happen. I know many people that are in that program, and they are fine and amazing and impressive people that deserve to maintain the autonomy that they have now and the decision-making authority that they have. I know I got a little off track from the underlying bill. But again, as I said, this is a lengthy bill, and I will refrain from going too deeply into the complete language that is before us today, just to suggest that I hope I never have to. I'll be a no today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Can I pause briefly?